Thank you very much, Mike and Davin, and a very warm welcome. I'm delighted to be here. As you can probably tell from the accent, I don't come from these parts. I'm actually based in London office, but always love an excuse to come to Dublin. It's a fabulous city, and so Catherine and Mike, thank you very much indeed for the invitation. Just wanted to share a few thoughts and themes with you this morning. Firstly, why this agenda is really important to me personally. Secondly, why it's important to the firm, and Mike's touched on some of those aspects already. And then thirdly, I'd like to share Joe's story with you. So why is it important to me? I come from a working class background. I was English state school educated. I didn't go to university. I decided at age 19 that I wanted to get out into the workplace. I wanted to move to London and get a job. I had no idea what I wanted to do, but I was given an opportunity to start in restructuring in a mid-tier firm. So 1981, there I was, a 19-year-old, a non-graduate. I was given a break because it was quite unusual in those days for professional services firms to take non-graduates. And I was really fortunate. I fell into something that I really enjoyed, and so consequently became quite good at. And through my 20s, so back in the day, I was straight, I thought. I was having the time of my life, as you can probably imagine, a 20-year-old in London, living away from home for the first time. So all good. And my career was going reasonably well. I joined what was Arthur Young back in the day in 1986, having done 4 years at that mid-tier firm, and my career continued to accelerate. And then I hit a problem when I was 30, and the problem was I fell in love with a woman. It was the first time I'd been in love, and it was certainly the first time I'd been in love with a woman, and that created quite a dilemma for me personally, coming to terms with my own sexuality and so on. And I became very closeted. It changed me and how I interacted with people in my life and in the workplace because I didn't know how to deal with the fact that I was gay. So I was in the closet for a number of years, both in my private life as well as in work. And some of you won't remember this period, but back in trust me, but back in those days, there were no real sort of public LGBT role models. Elton John was married to a woman. George Michael was straight. Well, he was at least dating girls publicly. This was years before the Beth Jordache kiss on Brookside, which caused such a furore. And to the extent that there were out LGBT role models in sport or in other areas of public life, they were pretty ridiculed. If you think Billie Jean King, Martina Navratilova, two of the finest tennis players of all time, and they were vilified in the press. So this was not an encouraging environment to be out. And there were no gay role models in work. So I was in the closet, and my happiness factor in the firm deteriorated, my performance deteriorated. I started to question really what I was doing in the workplace. And one day I was called to a meeting with one of our senior partners, and at the end of the meeting, talking about some technical matter, he said, "Can I ask you a personal question?" And I said, "Yes, you may. I don't guarantee to answer it, but you may ask away." He said, "Your flatmate, Linda, who I met the other evening in the pub after work, are you and she in a relationship?" Which was a pretty shocking question, and certainly wasn't what I expected. And my mind went into complete turmoil. And I thought I could lie, because I've been lying for the last 4 or 5 years. But then hard on the heels of that thought was, actually, I don't want to lie. So I told him the truth. And we had a great conversation, a fantastic conversation about it. And at the end of the conversation, I said, "Look, Stephen, Nobody else in the business knows, and I'd really ask you to respect my confidence around this, because I don't think it's anybody else's business. It doesn't affect my work, and I just want to carry on as normal. And he said, "You're wrong. It does affect your work." He said, "The thing that will make you the leader that you can be, that you have the potential to be, is to be authentic, and you cannot be authentic if you hide this part of you." So he said, "I encourage you to come out, to talk to your colleagues about this. Because when you're in a loving and happy relationship, it doesn't matter whether it's with a woman or with a man." And I thought long and hard about that, and it was my first kind of introduction, if you like, to the notion of authentic leadership. And he was being incredibly authentic. I don't think he had any gay friends in his world, but he was being incredibly open and inclusive towards me. And it gave me a huge amount of confidence, not to come bursting out of the closet, but I did at least open the door. And I took a gentle step, and nothing happened. It was great. And so slowly but surely, I had the confidence to come out almost every day. And I'm sure many of you will recognize that actually you still have to make the choice daily, almost, of whether or not to come out when somebody asks you, what does your husband do? What does your boyfriend do? And you've got to make that judgment call of whether or not you gently correct them. So I came out slowly but surely. This was 8 years before I came out to my parents. But it gave me a huge amount of confidence knowing that I had the support of this senior partner in the firm, that if anybody gave me any grief about this, that he had my back on this. And so I did come out, and my career took off like a rocket. It was absolutely sensational. I can really distinguish that as one of those turning points, Mike, when I look back and think, if I hadn't had that conversation, if he hadn't been brave enough to ask me, if I hadn't been brave enough to answer him honestly, I don't think I would be in the position in the firm with 27 years of fantastic career under my belt and still going strong. So that's why diversity and inclusion and the LGBT agenda is particularly important to me personally. But one of our challenges, I think, on the LGBT agenda particularly, is that it could be quite tempting to declare victory, especially for Ernst & Young. We've been #1 in the Workplace Equality Index, so we could just say, right, that's it, job done. We've got a ton of legislation that supports the community and prevents discrimination, that allows civil partnerships. So you'd think that we could declare victory there until there's a suggestion of gay marriage, and then everybody's up in arms again, and you realise actually we've still got a long way to go on this agenda. And I've had people say to me, but surely this is a topic that is increasingly less relevant. You see the graduates coming out of university today, it's not an issue for them. So you're not going to be as relevant in 5 years as you are today. And this is where I want to share Joe's story with you, because Joe is one of those graduates. He works for the firm in one of our regional offices. And he's a second-year graduate, so he's 23 years old. He's part qualified, and what we do with our part qualified graduates is we get them all together at the point that they're part qualified, and we conduct a career development workshop where we start to tell them that there are all sorts of interesting things that they can do in the firm outside of audit and so on. And I spoke at one of these last year for the first time, and I told my career story, which included my coming out story. There's about 300 folk in the room, including Joe, although I didn't meet him at the time. And 3 or 4 months later, last summer, he sent me an email, which I have to read because I have to make sure that I get this right. So bear in mind, he's 23 years old. Hi Liz, we haven't met, but I was at the career development workshop in May. In the last 18 months, I've come out to myself as being gay. At first, I was terrified to tell anyone, let alone anyone at work. I always thought that at any corporate, EY included, that it wouldn't be well received. Up until the career development workshop, Only one other person in EY knew I was gay, and that's because she'd met me on a night out in the Leeds gay scene. She promised not to tell. It wasn't until I heard your speech at the career development workshop about making a conscious decision to come out every day that I realised that coming out at work may not be the witch hunt that I feared. I decided to tell a few close friends, and gradually I felt comfortable to tell a few more. A friend of mine is involved with the Eagles Network, and she forwarded an article published by Stonewall in which you featured. It made me realise that my sexual orientation should not define who I am any more than my favourite colour being blue. Not everyone in the office knows, but it is no longer such a secret, and the prospect of people in EY knowing no longer scares me. This has made the world of difference to me and the way I see my career developing. This is what I wanted to thank you for. There's still some people that I need to come out to, and I hope to tell my family soon. But this is what I wanted to thank you for. It's a lot easier to walk a certain path when you know that someone has walked it before you. And that's why this agenda is still really important, and that's why role models are so important to help young men like Joe in his life and in his career. Since then, so this was last summer, he has come out to his aunt and uncle and his 7-year-old cousin, who thought it was really cool, because his 7-year-old cousin loves Justin Bieber and thinks that Justin Bieber is gay. So now he's got a gay cousin, he thinks that's really cool, which is a bit of a worry. He's come out to his grandmother, and the reception that he has had from all of those family members has been incredibly positive and supportive. And he's slowly coming to the point where he feels that he's going to be able to talk to his parents about it. In the workplace, he has recently won values awards for some of the work that he's doing in the business, but outside his day job. And he's just recently been elected to our employee forum. And he's been elected by his peers to join that forum, which is a national forum that meets with the firm's leadership, myself included, on a quarterly basis. And I really genuinely think if it wasn't for the intervention that I made to him, that encouraged him to come out, to find that confidence, he would not be in that position to have propelled his career forward. And I know that whether Joe stays with us for all of his working life, he will always remember Ernst & Young as being the organisation that supported him through a really, really difficult, challenging personal journey. So that's why this is important. This is why I'm so delighted to be here to share my thoughts and to share Joe's story with you. So thank you very much indeed for the invitation.